Morning, everybody. All of our guests, you're very welcome to Ulster University. It's my real pleasure to be able to welcome you here to the campus. I'm assuming it's the first time on campus for quite a lot of you. Show of hands, have any of you been here? But yeah, okay, you're particularly welcome. When we do the whole, this campus was built with X number of bricks and panes of glass and so on. That's a very long speech, and I'm kind of through that now because we think we've pretty much had everybody here that was ever going to come. So it's quite nice to have new people, but I can't remember how many bricks we used when we were building it. So I'll have to go away and look that up. I'd like to thank Paul for bringing the Labour Market Conference to Belfast. We're really delighted that you brought it here and particularly brought it to the university and the whole of the Nevin Economic Research Institute team for all of the work that you did today. Even when I came in and said, I'm Cathy, they were like, oh, we have a pack for you. So thank you for that. It's always good to feel included. When you're just doing the welcome, you don't often get included in the pack. So I'm really happy with that. Thank you. And although the northern and the southern economies are different in many ways, we all know that there are so many similar labour market challenges. And that's why we're here today, whether that's retaining and accessing skills, and we work on that every day in the institution, whether that's the increasing political sensitivities to immigration, or whether that's the broader global trends in terms of demographic challenges and the impacts for good or evil of AI. And Paul and I were at an event on campus here yesterday about AI, and quite an eye-opener that certainly was. All of those areas I know are going to be covered today and many more besides. So look forward to hearing some more on some of those. Now, I know that we're all facing significant economic challenges and there's always room to do better. But I think it's really important to remember that the reason why we can be optimistic and confident about the future each time someone says we have a skills shortage and there's a demand for skills, and we have low unemployment, which requires different policy solutions to some of our more fundamental problems. All of those are not issues in and of themselves. They're a consequence in many ways of economic success and a function of economic success. So when I hear we have a skills shortage, I'm kind of happy in some respects about that, because it shows that there is that economic success happening that requires more and more to be pumped into the system. So we're not here as representatives of single institutions or organisations, but here as a community. And at the university, I always talk about the Ulster family. The Vice-Chancellor hates that. I think probably he doesn't have the family network that I do, and I like to call everybody part of my family. So you now are part of the Ulster University family. We're not here as a single institution or representing particular sectors. We're here as a collective group of people to think through some of the talent and the knowledge that exists across the island and how we mobilise a lot of that. So we know that no matter how complex the challenges are at Ulster, we can't solve those by ourselves. We can't even think about or ideate the solutions ourselves. It requires a room or a family of people like this. And so that's what today is all about. It's about creating that basis for discussion, the conversations, and maybe thinking through some more research collaborations that could come out of the conversations today. So I hope you have a great day here. I hope you take some time out to wander around the building. And Gareth at the back, our Director of the Economic Policy Centre at the university, might remember or quickly Google how many bricks and how many panes of glass, etc., etc. If anybody asks any difficult questions, the whole structure of this building has been designed to look like a cathedral so that your eye is lifted up. So I think there was a film came out last year called Look Up, and we have a tendency not to do that, particularly when we're at conferences as well, when we bury our heads down and keep writing. So I would encourage you all today to look up, and you're very welcome to our Cathedral of Learning. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much, Cathy. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Paul McFlynn, co-director of NERI, and my colleague Tom McDonnell. And you recognise our other colleagues, Louisa, Paul and Chris, who are throughout the conference today. On behalf of NERI, I just want to welcome you all and say how great it is that we've been able to put together such a wonderful programme, a diverse programme today. This is the 13th annual Labour Market Conference. Seems like we've done more than that, but maybe that's just my stress levels over the last few days, but we really do enjoy these. I think it's a great way to bring together people who are doing work in similar areas, and also as well the fact that it is now firmly established as all island, and that we both when we do it here or in or partner with universities down south, we get a lovely mix of papers. So I'm going to, sorry, I'm not Professor Cathy Gormley-Heenan, sorry. I'm going to, you'll indulge me because we've been working on a project within NERI for the last more than 2 years at this stage, putting together a labour market dashboard, trying to get a greater idea of what it is actually the labour market. Initially in the Republic of Ireland, it has been a significant undertaken with the work done by my colleague Lisa Wilson, who will be here later on, should have mentioned her earlier, and Chris Smart, who has done huge work on this project over the last number of years. And they have put together a small promotional video, which I am going to be able to play, allegedly. No. I knew it wouldn't work. I mean, I could tell you about the dashboard. It won't be as it won't be quite as impressive. But you all got QR codes in your packs, which will, if you use them, will link you directly to the dashboard, and it will tell you all about the structure, the industrial and sectoral structural makeup of the. Oh wait, I'm not sure. This is it playing. Yeah, right now. It's just no audio with it. This is what it looks like, telling you details of wages, numbers employed, types of employment, trend data, gender breakdowns, and regional breakdowns as well, citizenship, union membership across the sectors, and obviously trend data as well on that. And I think this project came out of a discussion that we had following a few events and research projects we did, where people actually didn't know what the makeup of the Republic of Ireland economy was. People like to talk about it a lot, but it was very much absent of facts. So this is a way to be able to, if you're thinking or talking about a sector, to be able to go in and access this data immediately and get key facts and figures explaining the makeup of the labour market. So glad we got the first technical hitch out of the way with early on. But with that, and having welcomed you all several times now, we are going to begin with the first plenary session. And this is going to be given by my colleague Tom McDonnell and Michael Taft from SIPTU, who has been working with us on this project. And this is the new economic model. This is a project which we were tasked with in the Institute of looking at the Irish economy, both north and south, with the many challenges, different though they may be for different parts of the economy, with all the disruption that has come before and much of the disruption which we expect to come in the future. And to re-examine the strengths and weaknesses and chart a different way forward for the economy. And with that, I'm going to hand over firstly to my colleague, Tom McDonnell. Thanks very much.
So thank you, Paul. Professor Sean O'Reen was due to give this talk, but unfortunately is ill, so I am stepping in. So that's why I'm part of this presentation and this plenary today, along with Michael Taft there. So why a new economic model and why now? I suppose The background to this was an ongoing debate throughout the trade union movement that's been happening on the island of Ireland. And there was this concern that we seem to be moving perpetually from crisis to crisis without any sense of control over events. And the economy itself is constantly churning, constantly changing. And what we wanted to do, or what we were tasked to do, was to try and develop a comprehensive long-term model of economic development for the two economies on the island. So that means there will be, in many cases, the same policies. In other cases, due to different starting conditions, there will be nuances on that. So the working group is myself, Paul, Michael, and indeed Professor O'Ryan. It's all island in focus. And it's obviously this isn't the first attempt at something like this. In other countries, it's been done before. Notably, the Nordic countries have done it in the 20th century. There was the Wren-Meidner model, for example. In Ireland, of course, we have ongoing work by esteemed institutions such as Nest that are always thinking about these ideas. But what we wanted to do was try and bring it all together and articulate a vision for what the economy could look like in the middle of the 21st century, and then to articulate what the barriers are to getting there, and what are the policies that would allow us to achieve that outcome. So we were tasked at the SIPTU conference in 2023 to develop a new economic model, and ultimately it is to be agreed at the biennial conference in 2025, which will be just a few weeks away. So why a new economic model? What are our key goals? What are the domestic challenges and opportunities, international challenges, and so forth? And having established what those challenges are and what those ongoing challenges will continue to be, to develop a framework based upon the concept of a high road. So we want to have a high road type model that is based upon good jobs, productivity gains, human capital, innovation systems, and ultimately a good sustainable model of growth that is consistent with environmental constraints and sustainabilities, as opposed to a low road model, which is about reducing costs across the board, and a model of competitiveness that is achieved by simply pushing down standards across the board, which we tend to see all the time when we have a new challenge develop. So, for example, the first response of the Irish government in Dublin to the tariff crisis is to immediately start to roll back on labour rights. Again, the instinct is to move to a low road model. What we want to do is to have that instinct to be, let's pursue a high road model instead. And by the way, we have already been preparing for this, and we've been using strategic foresight and similar techniques to understand what's going to happen to the economy, but also to make us anti-fragile in the sense that no matter what happens externally, no matter what shocks come at us, we will be able to thrive and flourish, and in fact benefit from that. And then finally, and Michael is going to talk about this principally, is that we, to make it simple and clear, we based the model around the concept of 4 pillars, which are productivity, quality employment, so more jobs, but also better jobs. So that means dealing with issues around labor supply and the constraints that are there, labor demand and demand from the domestic enterprise sector, but also externally in terms of free trade, quality services, but also going further than that to talk about economic security, which means in-job security, but then social insurance to deal with transitions, universal basic services, and then finally an adequate welfare based as a final backstop. And then finally, the 4th pillar, while fiscal stability is certainly one of the most important aspects of this, it is only one component. What we're really talking about here is economic resilience. So the fiscal stability is important because we want to ensure that we're always able to counter-cyclically respond to whatever challenge comes our way in a way that we were not able to respond, at least in the Republic in 2008, and indeed the UK was not able to respond in response to the great financial crash as well. And we've seen the outcome of that in the Republic in terms of an ongoing housing crisis, as infrastructure collapses, as people move away from the construction sector. And we see it in the United Kingdom too, in terms of collapsing productivity after a decade or so of minimal investment in infrastructure, and again, a focus on the low road model in the United Kingdom in particular. So that's broadly the structure. I've gone through the key points. Our goals finally are to build a sustainable, prosperous and inclusive economy, to avoid those booms and busts which have caused huge gain, and to protect people from the ups and downs of the international economy. I should say as well, I pointed out fiscal policy has been crucially important in terms of that economic resilience, but it's also about competitiveness. It's also about cost control. It's about dealing with flaws in particular sectors, such as why is the cost of energy so high in Ireland, and what can we do about it? What can we do with the housing crisis? How do we keep prices competitive, which is different from keeping prices low, but it's about pursuing a productivity-based model that allows us to pay decent wages and still be competitive. And then finally, the other two components of that resilience are fundamentally the existential crisis about environmental sustainability. So it's about that transition towards net zero and how we can do that over the next 20 or 30 years. And then finally, there's the political economy constraint. Whatever we do, the policies that we pursue have to have buy-in from the public at large. So that means when it comes to environmental policy, the emphasis needs to be more on carrots than sticks, for example. There's no point pursuing policies that do not have public support and will simply be unwound. So sequencing is important, design is important. And with that, I'm going to pass over to Michael. Thank you.
How do I get my thing up?
So next slide, you go.
Just need to use the laptop. Yeah. Just in time now. Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry about the delay. So let's just go down here. Okay. Going to talk about the 4 pillars, which Tom referred to. First off, the new economic model breaks from the prevailing market-led orthodoxy, but it does so by building on our strengths, so that it emerges out of our strengths, or there are changes that are already taking place. That political economy thing that Tom referred to, so that it must be both desirable and feasible. By the way, this focuses on the domestic economy. We started this discussion nearly 2 years ago, and that was before all of the, the rupture in terms of global trade policy emerged. So we had been focused on the domestic sector. And is there a reason to focus on the domestic sector? Is there something wrong with our domestic sector? Yes, there's a lot of things wrong. When we compare, and this is for the Republic, but many of the indicators are for Northern Ireland, when we compare the indicators for the domestically owned sector in the Republic with other small open economies in Europe, what do we find? In terms of hourly business productivity, we're bottom of the table. Business investment, bottom of the table. Exports coming from our domestic sector, bottom of the table. R&D investment, bottom of the table. And when it comes to industrial democracy, yes, we are still bottom of the table. So these are the deficits that we need to address. First pillar, pillar number 1 is the productive economy. Where does an economic model start? It starts where people actually produce goods and services in the production process, or you might say the workplace, which is actually where the trade union movement also started. I'm not going to be able to go through all the strategies, and these are strategies, not policies, but strategies in each of these things. But for instance, in the productive economy, we look across the economy at things like education, R&D, and public investment. Then we look at vertical strategies at the sectoral level, which is your traditional industrial policy. And then at the enterprise or foundational level, the democratization of enterprise activity. All of this is to increase productivity and foster greater competitiveness and innovation in the economy. I'm just going to look at enterprise level, 2 particular components at enterprise level in pillar 1. First off, it is to democratize the workplace, not because it is just or it's a human right. It is that. It's that in spades. But because the outcomes are better when you mobilize human capital, that means men and women who are working or who want to work when you mobilize them through formal and informal democratic structures. It's not just about collectively bargaining, though that's extremely important. That's actually the first rung on the democracy ladder, but it's also things like board level employee representation, enterprise councils, collectively agreed employee participation schemes, labor managed enterprise. The fact is, as you go deeper into the democratic forest, all of a sudden we're able to harvest a lot more in terms of productivity, enterprise, and efficiency. The second element is to promote good companies. Criteria to be agreed by stakeholders in what describes a good company. What describes a good company? Well, we can take a look. Obviously, workplace democracy, efficiency, wages, and working conditions, reinvestment into skills, into training, on top of the usual physical asset, decarbonizing, work-life balance, financial transparency. All of these are elements of a good company, and there are many companies that follow, if not all, then most of these things. So we're not suggesting something new, but what we are suggesting is this: what we want to do, and this is intentional, we want to crowd out low road employers in order to crowd in good companies or high road employers. If that's a nod towards Joseph Schumpeter, is that how you say his name? I never can pronounce his name. Schumpeter, is that right? If that's a nod towards him, then yes, it's a nod towards him. But that is the goal. And these companies can be promoted through public procurement contracts, special tax reliefs, grant aiding, and de-risking investment with equity funding. So democratize the marketplace, socialize the market relations therein. That's the key. Employment quality. I'm not going to spend too much time on employment quality because the trade union movement has spent a lot of time arguing about this. We can also chronicle all the deficits in our labor markets, both North and South. We've done that, and put up the type of policies which can help address the deficits in our labor markets, the low pay, the wage inequality, high levels of precariousness. But a key thing, and this is a theme that goes through the new economic model, is that while these arguments for fair employment conditions start from a normative perspective, we pose these issues as one of enterprise efficiency, productivity, innovation, fair wages. But the OECD also improving productivity and innovation. The NESC talks about improved productivity, increased innovation from job quality. And recently, the Minister for the Economy, Colin Murphy, said there's compelling evidence that good jobs boost workers' productivity and health. That way we can critique what's going on, so that when the minister in the Republic says, oh, to help our hard-pressed enterprises, we must postpone the living wage. We must postpone social benefits such as statutory sick pay. We have to postpone all these things to give our enterprises a break. What they're actually saying is not that they're giving enterprises a break. What they're doing is they're reducing enterprise efficiency, because those all create a better enterprise environment. They're not the only things, but they are certainly critical components. So what the minister is doing is sacrificing enterprise efficiency for the benefit of the owners of those businesses. Economic security. Two, there's a number of proposals. Just look at two. First off is universal basic services. That is the provision of public services for free. Things like healthcare, education, public transport, childcare, and adult care. And there's many other services. This collective responsibility to meet needs we all share. It creates greater social cohesion, and it also plays a role in redistribution. The decommodification of services throughout the economies is one of the foundations and probably one of the key recommendations in the new economic model, because it, along with workplace democracy and job quality, creates the foundation. I think I'm running out of time. Am I running out of time, Paul? Okay, social insurance, PRSI, whatever. the moral infrastructure of social solidarity, protects employment from financial risks and market vagaries. The fact is that the Republic in Northern Ireland has one of the lowest replacement rates. So if you go unemployed, if you become sick, if you become injured, if you want to take time out for family caring, we have one of the lowest replacement rates. Social insurance replaces only a very small proportion of your income compared to the rest of Europe. So extending pay-related benefits to all insurance programs, mirroring best EU practice, is alongside decommodification and strengthening an insured economy. It's one of the bases of the new economic model. Lastly, economic resilience. Again, Tom spoke about this. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there's two among many things: fiscal stability and price stability. Fiscal stability. Obviously, we need to run counter-cyclical policies. How many times we've heard that? We've heard that going back 15 years. We still don't seem to be able to run in the Republic counter-cyclical policies. Somebody should actually host a workshop or something for policymakers. But it gets even worse than that, because the Fiscal Council is right. In the Republic, the government is engaging in fiscal gimmickry. The fact is, the economy in the Republic is generating a deficit, and that is wholly inappropriate for this point in the economic cycle. So what we need to do is end that gimmickry, take out all those windfall corporate tax receipts. The government says they're not relying upon them. They are relying upon them. It's fueling inflationary pressures. Take them all out. If you want to spend money on something, raise taxes. 14 billion euros additional spend needed to reach our parity. So let's go back to the Commission on taxation. UK is a similar low spender, and we need to spend 145 billion pounds to reach the European, to reach the average of European. I think, sorry, that's G20 nations, not G7. Price stability again. Here, pursue supply side solutions, abandon demand side. Don't fuel friggin' prices when there's a low supply and high demand. Don't throw more money on demand, which the government and the Republic is doing. Administrative directives and price regulations, reshape price markets. But here's an example of where we said, decommodification, universal basic services can help create an egalitarian foundation, one of social solidarity, redistributive. It also serves a fiscal and price factor as well. And in fact, the UK, through that, Northern Ireland and the Republic are two jurisdictions apart. During the cost of living crisis, as you can see, actually, we should have had all of the about 20% increase for both jurisdictions, 20% overall. As you can see, in UK, Northern Ireland, these are all public services, or predominantly public services, huge, also significant increases. But at least in the Republic, they pursued strategies that actually reduced bus fares, childcare, rail, third-level education, hospital services. The intervention, the use of public services, not only to create solidarity and to share collectively the needs that we all face, it also serves to reduce living costs, which is key, because the Republic has the highest living costs in the EU, bar Denmark. So I think that's the last slide. As I say, those are the 4 pillars. That's just a taste of it. There's a lot more in there, a lot more examples that we give. But here's the point as well. Even if you have a proposal in one pillar, it actually can help achieve the goals set down in other pillars. So collective bargaining advances democracy, but it promotes productivity, reduces in-work, poverty, and gender gaps. UBS, as we saw, for instance, is an instrument of price stability. And good companies promote investment, and so therefore growth and fiscal stability. So the totality of the new economic model is to show that sustainable growth, employment quality, workplace democracy, fiscal and price stability are not only not inconsistent with one another, they are actually necessary and supporting components to one another. So if you want to build a prosperous, productive, competitive economy, promote democracy, promote social solidarity, and promote socialization. That's the key to unleashing the market economies, both in Northern Ireland and the Republic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you can see, no small task. We do have a small amount of time for questions. So if anybody has or wanted to start off, I know it's where do you begin with questions on such a wide-ranging presentation? But if anybody is moved, Tony, Jim down there in the front.
Thank you. Jim Custer, retired trade union official. I want to focus on the idea of good companies. As a number of people in this room will know, the Belfast Telegraph publishes 100 top companies in Northern Ireland, and they've just recently done it for 2024. And it is based on the profits of those companies. But when you delve a bit deeper, for example, a substantial, not the majority, but a fair number of those people, when you look at their pay bill and their employment, their average pay is in fact less than the median earnings in Northern Ireland. And another way of looking at this is a ratio between profits and the pay bill. And up to, I think, over 20% of those companies, so-called top companies, the profits are more than the pay bill, and some of them are 2 and 3 times the pay bill. So I think it's very important to decide how you judge what is a good company.
Anybody else? Or let you take that question?
Want me to take that? Yes. Usually these things, the top 100 entrepreneurs, the top 100 companies, the top 100 startup companies, blah, blah, blah. They usually only use one indicator, profits. It doesn't indicate whether those profits are being used for social utility, which is reinvestment. That's why you want to have a profitable enterprises, because that's where investment comes from, by and large, or whether it's gained, it's just a value extraction. You don't know if those profits have been gained by negative externalities, such as suppressing wages, suppressing working conditions, being indifferent to your supply chain, etc. So yes, good companies, and that's why we state that the description of good companies would be agreed by the stakeholders. But profits is actually not a very good way to describe what a good company is, because there are many ways of being a profitable companies. Some are sustainable, most are not.
Very good. Well, if nobody else has moved for a question, we are remarkably on time. So I'm going to say that the collective bargaining session is in this room. So if you're for that, you're staying here. For the other 2 sessions, for the job quality session and the labour market trend session, you are at the rooms directly across from us here, across the atrium. So enjoy the rest